Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning into an episode of the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. My name is Jackie, and I'm the host. Today, I'll be speaking with Michelle, who is a mother in recovery, who is most recently separated from a long-term relationship and is continuously learning to live her authentic truth. Hope you enjoy. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on to the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. Do you want to just let us know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Michelle. I'm originally from Ontario, and I've lived out west since I was 21, so longer now than I lived back in Ontario. I have three daughters, 15, 17, and 20, and one grandson. He's going to be 2 in January. Yeah, I work for the United Steelworkers, and I'm in recovery, and I'll be sober for 9 years in December.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. So what brought you to BC?
A boy. Yeah, no, I was married really young. I got married when I was 21, and we were into rock climbing. And yeah, he was very determined to live out here. I lived in Penticton for the first 3 years. It was beautiful and did lots of climbing, and it was great. And then I spent some years in Canmore, and that's where we separated and went different ways, and eventually I ended up here in Cranbrook. Yeah.
Family or something, or?
Cranbrook?
Yeah.
No, I met another boy.
Yeah.
I met him in Canmore, but he lived here. So
Awesome.
eventually we ended up settling here. It was much more accessible than compared to Canmore. So,
What would you say your favorite part about Cranbrook is?
all the lakes actually, and it's all the camping and the lakes that are really close and easy to access, and that wasn't really the case so much in Canmore. There was one place to swim that was easy to get to, and it was freezing. So I like the options here. But I grew up in Lake Country in Ontario, so right by Algonquin Park. So yeah, it's that's my jam. Yeah, kind of thought I wasn't sure about Cranbrook at first when I first got here, but it definitely grows on you. And I sometimes think that, maybe when my kids get older, like maybe I'll go back to Ontario, but I don't know. I have a life here, and I feel very settled. So
You got kids and grandbabies and a good job.
A good job,
good member of the community. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Better
than I used to be.
So, well, thank you for the introduction. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you do reside here in Cranbrook and I get the chance to know you. And I guess we'll just jump right into it. So,
Sure.
Holding on to your heart, what do you think of when you hear the phrase holding on to your heart?
Well, like I told you, I put a lot of thought into it because, what does that mean to me? And what it brings to mind is, truly recognizing and listening to what's in my heart, like what I need or how I feel, or trying to be, at that level of authenticity, and which is not something that I've been good at for most of my life. So, yeah, I that's what I think about when you say that, because, I spent most of my life not recognizing what I needed or how I was really feeling, or what was in my heart.
It's really powerful. Is there a situation in particular that makes you think of maybe not truly recognizing what you need and want, or a time where you realized what you do need and want and had to?
Yeah, there's in my recent life, I would say it was a big. The last couple of years has been a really big turning point for me, where I've really started to think about what I needed, and you know, and not before. I feel like I was kind of aware of how I was feeling, but not willing to really look at it or really recognize it or really action it either. And in the last couple of years, I've been working on that. I did lots of counseling, and but it's funny because I had a situation where recently separated from my 20-year partner, and I knew I had to, move out of the house. I needed to get out of that space, and it wasn't going over well, and it was really, really difficult because I knew the minute I made that decision that I was leaving, I was going to move into my own place, I instantly felt better, like lighter.
That relief.
Relief.
Yeah.
It felt right. And then because it wasn't a popular decision with my partner, there was a lot of pressure from, him about how it wasn't the right decision. I wasn't doing the right thing for the family. I wasn't doing the right thing for my kids. It was a big mistake, and, it was a lot of that coming at me. And I had to almost like a mantra in my head, no, this is the right thing. This is the right thing. You are doing the right thing. You are doing the right thing for yourself. And when we look after ourselves, then we have the ability to look after those we love. Mm-hmm. And it took me a really long time to figure that out. Mm-hmm. And even knowing it, I still had to say it to myself literally daily. Mm-hmm. Like, and that conversation was coming at me daily. And I had to. It was honestly one of the hardest things I've had to do in a long time, because, it almost felt like a physical reaction. Like everything in me wanted to just, okay, just put aside what you think is right or what you need, because that's how I've always lived my life. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was, and I'm very happy and proud of myself that I stuck with it, and I stayed on the path, and I followed what I knew was right for me. Mm-hmm. And because the reward was like, it's insane how good it felt. And I thought, I almost feel a little stupid, it's like, oh my God, 50 years old, it took you this long to figure out that you could have had this kind of joy for most of your life. And I'm like, is this how it is for everybody else? Like, is everybody else walking around, acknowledging their feelings and acting on them? Probably. And I can't believe that I lived my life like that. And
do you think there was times, like, it was a 20-year marriage, and were there times where you felt like you wanted to, but you were just too scared to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's on me. Like, that is absolutely on me. Like, I was unhappy for a long time, and it doesn't really matter what the reasons were why I was unhappy. Mm-hmm. I was unhappy. Mm-hmm. And I didn't action it at all, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, and the fears change, like, sometimes the fear is around the financial side of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and sometimes the fear is around being alone. But to be honest with you, even with fears, I mean, like when I did actually do it, I still had fears. But this time I was like, no, I got to stay on this path. Like I was very determined. But in the past, it was honestly was just easier and more comfortable for me to not action it, which is insane.
What do you think the moment of like feeling determined to continue or to do it and was there like a moment in particular like this is it, this is the time, and what like shifted for you to make it so?
It's funny. It's like I honestly feel like, yeah, there was a moment. It was like when I finally made that decision, and I got real with myself because I had been thinking about it, a little bit before that. I mean, we were separated and we were trying to share this space, and it was so toxic and so unhealthy for everybody involved. And even that wasn't pushing me to like, because I was telling myself, well, this is easier for the kids and this is easier financially and just again
Reasons.
making up reasons. Or I mean, anybody will always find a reason in any situation to do what's not easy, and there's probably people out there who are going, what are you talking about? Leaving would have been the easiest thing, right? But that's not the way my brain worked, but like the shift came over time. Like, so, I said the last couple of years, is when things have really been changing for me and the growth has really been coming for me. And, it's because, like, that's how long we've been separated, and, but before that, like, I was sober for 7 years before that. And all of that was part of it too. Like, this has all been this process of growing and changing.
Layers.
And it is layers. Like you know, was a really sick person, and I still can be a really sick person sometimes. But I feel like finally I'm really getting down to that nitty gritty, where I'm gonna where change is really happening and coming into effect. But it was a super long process. To give you an example of how I was thinking about this, it came back to me. It's like, I can't believe that I actually did this, and you're gonna laugh at me probably. But so I had, I think I was about 12, and I had a best friend, and we were always doing slumber parties. It was either she was at my house or I was at her house. And so I spent a lot of time around her and her family, and we got to her house, and everybody's unloading from the minivan, right, and going into the house. Well, the minivan sliding door got closed on my fingers, and I didn't scream or anything like that because I just didn't do that kind of thing. That would be bothersome.
Yeah.
That would be bothersome, and the doors got locked. And everybody went inside. And I stood there, and then eventually my friend's mother came outside and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, the door was closed on my hand. And she's like, "Oh my God, why wouldn't you tell anybody?" I'm like, well, I had no answer. Like, I stood there until somebody came out and asked me what the issue was. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, who does that? But that is how I was, and I was 12. And then my sister likes to tell this story about my brother and I are very close in age. I was adopted, so we're only 6 months apart. And she likes to tell this story about my brother's he was a real wild child. And we were in cribs still, but our cribs were on wheels because that's what they did in the 70s. They put cribs on wheels because it seemed like a good idea. But my brother was he had pushed the cribs up against the bedroom door, and my mother and my sister couldn't get in because the way the door opened. And she always tells that story because my brother was like this wild, crazy child pushing the cribs around, and I was just, sitting in my crib waiting for someone to come and rescue me, and I'm like, I guess I was just always like that. Like, it just didn't want to rock the boat, didn't want to, be a nuisance. Total opposite when I drank. And I was always like the loudest person and rocking the boat all over the place. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was, where when the things escaped from me. I don't know. But yeah, it's just like.
Is that your earliest memory, like with the door, of thinking like you just don't ask for what you need when you need it?
Yeah. And I don't know why I was like that. Like, I don't know, my mom was a lot and my brother was a lot. I mean, great, but a lot. He had a lot of issues when we were kids. He took a lot of medications for, hyperactivity and stuff like that. Back then they didn't have the information and knowledge like they do now. And, it was, yeah, he did a lot of crazy things, and my parents' attention was on him a lot. So I don't know, and I think I just didn't want to add to that. And my mom had a lot of mental health issues too, right? She suffered with, she's bipolar, and that was really difficult back then. They didn't, have great ways of treating that. And it was really hard to treat. So yeah, I think it was just, I don't know. I got into this habit of, that's not important, Michelle, and just pushing it aside. And
do you feel like the adoption has any part in that?
I don't know if it does or not. That's a good question. Something I know about being adopted was, like, I always knew that I was adopted. It wasn't like it was a secret and I found out later. I always knew about it. My parents never tried to hide it from me. I was super curious about it. It was a private adoption, and they had a lot of information that most adopting parents wouldn't have. They knew my birth mother, so I was always like trying to get that information out of them, and it just wasn't something that they were gonna talk to me about. And yeah, I don't know. I have some weird feelings around it for sure. Because it was a private adoption, it's not like my parents had to go through the kind of screening that most parents who are adopting would have to, especially nowadays. Yeah, it's not like we grew up with tons of money. We had very little, and my father, he was an alcoholic, and my mother had her bipolar that she was trying to deal with. Yeah, and I think I had some resentment over it for sure. But, I grew out of that. Like, that kind of all tied in with my teenager angst years, and, wherein I was like taking any reason to be unhappy and cultivate it. But yeah, I don't feel like that anymore. I don't care. But I have, I decided a long time ago when it came to my parents that I wasn't going to hold on to angry feelings towards them. I mean, they did the best with what they had. And I don't know if that came after I had kids of my own. And
how old were you when you had your first kid?
29. Yeah, and just before I turned 30, I had my oldest. And yeah, that was a difficult transition for me. I very set in my ways. I wasn't near sobriety at that time. So yeah, I was really set in my ways, and it was really, I was kind of a big selfish baby about it, like I really didn't want my life to change, and when you become a mom, your life completely changes. Like, this little tiny human is completely dependent upon you. And that was fine and everything. I think I would have adjusted better if my partner had been, I think I was resentful towards him. His life didn't really change. Like he was able to do whatever he wanted to still, whereas I was like, physically expected to feed this child, right? And like, yeah, I was just totally selfish about it. And I feel like that for a lot of my parenting years when I was still drinking before I got sober. Yeah, I feel like it doesn't upset me like it used to, but when I look back, when I first got sober, it was hard for me because, I realize how selfish I'd been and how preoccupied I was with, what I wanted and what I needed but in very superficial ways, It wasn't, yeah.
Kind of like your main regret from drinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that we all look back and think, oh, I wish that hadn't happened. Embarrassing stuff happens and you're like, oh my God, that was, but that stuff means very little in the grand scheme of things. It's, the first 12 years of my daughter's life. I wish I could, do over, but you just can't.
When did you start drinking?
Oh, 13?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So the very first time that I had drinks was very little to drink. Me and my friend, we stole one of my dad's beers and it tasted gross. So then we thought we were really smart. We were going to pour grape Kool-Aid powder inside the bottle. And all that did was make a huge fountain of purple beer foam all over my bed, but which was hard to hide from my parents. But we did manage to get drunk. But that was pretty minute. The second time I drank, I was determined to have a party, and it was not a good experience for me. I mean, I was 13 and I was with my friend, and I was dating this boy who was a year older than me, and she was dating his brother who was 2 years older than him. And we were meeting up with the older brother. My boyfriend wasn't going to be there. The older brother came with his friends, and we were drinking outside, and I don't even remember what we were drinking. I honestly don't remember much from that night. Not because I blacked out, but I did pass out. And when I came to, one of his friends was on top of me, and I didn't know what to do. And that was really difficult because I wasn't really good at looking after myself or my feelings or what I needed or asking for what I needed. And after that happened, I knew it was wrong, but quite honestly, I blamed myself. Mm-hmm. And I was 13, like I was a kid, mm-hmm. It was weird when my daughters hit that age. I can remember thinking like, oh my God, they're like little kids, mm-hmm. I was a little kid and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to take care of myself at all. And I didn't know how to ask for help to take care of myself. I went into survival mode and I just kept drinking. And and that's what I did. And to be honest with you, I knew that it was, like I said, I knew it was rape, but because I felt like I put myself in that situation, I felt like I was to blame. Mm-hmm. And I never called it sexual assault, for, years. years.
Quite the wound. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is and it isn't, like sobriety and the work that I put in, like the steps that I did really helped me heal from that. But I held on to it for a lot of years. Up until I got sober, I didn't know what to do with it.
Until you start healing from that kind of thing, you just carry it around. It just perpetuates the drinking, right? And
It
it's a
perpetuated
trauma.
the drinking. It perpetuated, you know, how I behave, like sexually, like in relationships, or not even relationships, but just like, yeah, I think, like, I don't think I had a really high threshold for how I thought about myself anyways. As in, like, maybe not negative thoughts, but like my feelings aren't that important, or there's other stuff that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, it was it affected how I felt about myself, like my worth, and then I kept drinking because I didn't want to think about it or feel it or deal with it. And then that just began this cycle of shame, because I did things when I was drinking that I would not have normally done. I was really promiscuous through high school, and, I would tell myself that, it was me being powerful. But that was, like, I didn't feel that way. I felt less than, and I just kept knocking myself down, right? And I kept that cycle of shame going because I just kept drinking because I didn't want to think about how I really felt about myself, And somehow, though, in my life, I must admit I have been blessed with the best people for friends. And, that's part of the reason why, getting healthy and healing and, taking myself out of that, that really helped me a lot, because the people that I have for friends, that I've had for friends since I was that age, I'm like, these people are amazing. And
You're still friends with them.
And I'm still friends with them, like, and they want to be my friend, and they want to see me, and they want to spend time with me, and I'm like, that
That's
probably
something.
means something, and that was kind of like, I think, part of what helped me start on my journey of sobriety, because it wasn't a hard sell for me, it was like, and it wasn't my idea either. My workplace was like, hey, guess what? You've got a problem and we'll help you out. But you need to be on board with that. And I was. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And, but it was one of those things where I'm like, I got to do this.
It kind of is symbolic too, to it's like your hand in the door, right? Like you're drinking,
Right.
like you wanted it. Probably it sounds like you were ready to go with it.
Yeah.
But you just couldn't ask for it, and
No,
you had to
I
wait till
couldn't.
someone presented it to you.
That was, it was an easy sell. I was surprised. And I went away to treatment, and yeah, I don't know.
That was kind of maybe the start of the journey of doing what it is, living authentically and taking care of you and not worrying about everybody else.
It was the start of it for sure. And it took me, like I said, it took me a long time, and it took a lot pain. Like, it takes pain, and that's how it works. And it's not just in sobriety that's how it works. That's how life works. Like, you need to be in pain. You need to go through that to figure it out. And yeah, learned over the course of my sobriety, I've learned so much about myself. And like you said, it's like layers. And you just keep, peeling this stuff away and getting down to it, and the stuff, the big stuff, like the sexual assault and some stuff from my childhood and whatever, that stuff, I feel like, it kind of cleared that wreckage away rather quickly and early in sobriety. But when you really get down to how you are in your relationships, and that was a big one for me too, because I felt like I was on track for a lot of the stuff in my sobriety. The biggest place where I was struggling was my relationship with my partner. And I was sober and he was still in active addiction. And it was hard. It was like you learn things in the program, you know it. And you're looking at your own life and you're like, the whole point is that we're supposed to do that work and we're supposed to apply those steps that we do to the rest of our lives as well. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't doing that. Mm-hmm. Because I was living with somebody in active addiction, and it took me a long time to get to that place where I could detach from all of that. Mm-hmm. I spent first few years, really caught up in his addiction, and to the point where I left the program for a little bit and really isolated myself, and just was trying to normalize my kids' lives for them, and I don't know. I don't want to say that it was a waste of time, because honestly, I am a firm believer that the journey is the way it has to be. Mm-hmm. Your journey happens that way for a reason, and I believe that, and not just for myself but for my kids too, right? I think that it's taken my oldest daughter in a scary direction at times in her life. She had a really tumultuous teenage years there where I was really afraid for her. But things have really leveled out for her since then. And then, it's taken my middle daughter, who's now 17, down a scary path too. But thankfully things have worked out really well for her as well. I'd like to believe it's because it has something to do with my sobriety, for both of them, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I can't speak to their journey. All I know is that it's been such a big process. And then in the last couple of years, when I got to a point where it was all those years in sobriety, I was building up my self-worth, where I was going to be to a point where I was no, I actually deserve more. Yeah. I do, and I don't want this anymore, right?
You were taking the steps forward and kind of still getting caught in the not taking care of yourself because you're worried about other people. And
right, and that's because it got to a point where I was okay, I don't want this anymore because it's I deserve more. But then it still took me another year and a half to figure out that you're still not taking care of yourself here. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the unraveling, eh?
It really is.
Once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it.
Yep.
You can't unsee that stuff, and it kind of
yes
creates more shame, probably in a different way of being okay, I know this is I shouldn't be tolerating this, but I am. And then you just kind of start going deeper in that, and then finally that pain is enough to say, I'm going to do something different, right?
Yeah. And again, terrified. Absolutely terrified. And then, like I explained at the beginning, that feeling that I had afterwards. When I made the decision that I was moving out and I felt right, that was foreign to me. I was like, wow, I didn't expect this.
What is this?
What is it? Yeah. And then I can't even explain it. Like, just, there was a lot of nerves, a lot of like that last little bit. It was so scary. It was so scary.
Hang on to in that time, like your biggest support or
my friends.
Yeah.
And yeah, my ball team. You know, my ball team is amazing. We have like, yeah, I mean, literally I can count on every single person on that team if I needed them, you know, and they'd be there. We played Sam Steele tournament. We won the B division, undefeated, and great weekend. So cold, so nasty. The weather, it was freezing, windy, awful weather. And we finish, and I was like, yay, us. And then I'm like, who wants to help me move? And yeah.
They all did.
Literally people were like, yeah, we'll help you.
Aww.
I couldn't believe it. And it was amazing because I was afraid to do that. Like by this point, my partner had become threatening and really unstable. And yeah, I was scared. You know, I couldn't be in that house at the same time as him. But I needed to get my stuff, and now I had a place to put it. So, yep, they helped me. We loaded it up. We got it out of there. I had my dogs, my kennels, and I have a 120-pound dog, and a Chihuahua. So it was quite a chore, and so many plants, so many plants. I'm definitely a crazy plant lady, and basically that's all I had. Literally, I was okay with it. I have my dogs, my plants, and like 2 end tables and a bed. And I was
not
like,
a hard move then. Well, maybe
it wasn't a hard move, but it was like, you know, I had 20 years of a life that I had built with this person, and I was okay with only the essentials. This is really all I need. And I'm fine with it. And we got it moved. And the first week I was in my apartment, I couldn't figure out what was going on with me. I couldn't figure out what I was feeling. And I realized that I wasn't in fight or flight anymore. And I had been for literally 2 years. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Like, I'm walking around this space, and I got plants everywhere, and like boxes and end tables. And I'm like, if I'm sitting down, I'm sitting on the floor or on my bed, because that's all I had. And I didn't care. I was so happy, joyous, and free. Finally. And safe. You know, safe. And it has presented its challenges. My youngest daughter, Isabel, and I are really close, and it's a 2-bedroom apartment, and I have 2 children that still live at home. So I gave them the big room, and you know, 2 single beds, and it's not what they're used to. You know, I'm like, okay, I know that you guys have bedrooms in this really nice big house, and you have your walk-in closets each, and now I'm asking you to share a bedroom. And, you know, purge a little bit. And we share the children equally. But it's, you know, it's been hard. Isabel is very much, she's the youngest, and so she always requires supervision. My ex works away, so when he's not at the house, she is with me. And my older one, who doesn't require supervision, it's hard. She's not really down with it, you know? It doesn't feel like home for her. Not yet, anyways. Maybe that will change. But Isabel has settled in really nicely, and I can't blame her. I mean, she's 17. She has a house to herself most of the time. It's kind of a sweet setup.
Yeah, it's not a bad gig. I wouldn't be racing to share a bedroom with
right?
my siblings.
Especially with her sister. She's like, no thanks. But so, I mean, and honestly, all I want to do is support them through this. So whatever they need. And I'm okay with that. Because it's not about me in that sense. Like, I've got what I need right now. So I have looked after myself.
Your cup is full.
My cup is full.
You did the right thing.
Yeah.
And you can
absolutely
care for them in a way more authentic and
yeah.
sustainable way.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to me how easy it is actually for me to be able to put them first like that, you know, like it's not hard. I'm not wrapped up in my thoughts. Like I'm pretty sure I wasn't present for them for a little while there. Like I was going through a really rough time the first year. I had like literally started to get worried for myself, where I was thinking about not driving for a bit. Like I was so caught up in my own mind that I would get distracted. And like I almost had 3 or 4 accidents. I almost got T-boned by a semi before I was like, okay, maybe you should take a break from driving right now, because I was just so wrapped up in it and in my pain and in what I was going through. So it was not present for them at all. And now I feel like I don't have to deal with my ex in that sense. I only have to deal with him as I choose to. You know, if he texts me, if I choose to respond, or I can take some time. And if he calls me, I don't have to pick up the phone. And that was not something else I was used to. Like, you know, and because I don't live there anymore, I have that choice. And it's so much better for me. And for him too, I think, honestly. And yeah, and because I'm not preoccupied with that, all of that, and I can actually give my attention to my kids in a proper way and support them in a proper way and not be thinking about myself and not be
worried, fight or
worried.
flight.
Yeah.
Are you still like struggling or working at like getting rid of any negative beliefs around the situation, or?
Nope.
Clear as day.
It's so funny. Like I'm not trying to be like a cold, callous person, but yeah, I honestly have never been more sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, not only did I struggle with like recognizing how I was feeling about things, I could not make a decision about things. I could not make a decision about, you asked me where I want to eat dinner.
Don't know.
That's the worst thing you could ask me. Like what? I can't make that decision. Like I couldn't, because what starts going through my mind is like, well, what does he want? What do the kids want? Everybody else. I could not focus on what I wanted. That's how bad it was. It was ridiculous. And now it's like, and it was an unhealthy relationship. It was not good for either of us. And now I'm like, yeah, I feel great. I mean, rent is so expensive. I'm happy to pay it. I'm happy to pay it. Because honestly, I'm also at a point in my life where, like, what do I need? I need to look after my children. I need to make sure they have what they need. They are fed. I've provided a roof over their head. I'm here if they need me. What more do I need? I don't smoke. I don't drink. Sometimes I need chocolate, but I can afford that. So, most of the time.
That would slide.
And, that's the thing. Like, my life is removing all of that out of my life has really simplified it, and gives me the ability to really think about that kind of stuff. And, now when I'm feeling things, I'm dealing with it. I'm processing it. I'm feeling it. And I try really hard to stay in touch with myself in that way. Somebody said once that, that being authentic to them was having their outsides match their insides, and that really resonated with me. And I'm like, I want that for me. I want that all the time for me, even if it's not pretty, even if it's not what other people want to see. I don't want to be that person walking around putting a mask on. I did that for years when I was drinking.
Yeah.
Right? Walk around with a mask, this bullshit, everything looks good on the outside. Look at my perfect life. It's like my whole life had to be a Facebook profile. Like it was too much and so fake.
I was going to ask you if you were going to, if you could talk to your younger self, what you would tell her.
So I heard this, and I can't take credit for it, but I was like, that's what I would have said to myself. Somebody, I can't remember. It was somebody was speaking, and I was watching this, and it was, the biggest love affair you should have is with yourself. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wish that I had known that. I wish that somebody had said that to me. It's huge. Like, that's huge. I wish that, and I tell that to my daughters now, because I want that for them. I want them to always be in touch with themselves, and to love themselves, because that's the biggest gift that I could give to them. And I hope that does happen for them. I'm pretty sure that it's funny. They're all so different. It's funny. It's like, how do we raise these humans in the same place, and they all come out so different? And my middle one, she's all heart. My oldest one, she's very funny and tough as nails. Reminds me a little bit of myself, which makes me worried sometimes too. But she's a gem. My youngest one, we always used to make jokes about her. We were like, don't poke the bear. She's a wild child, but she's very, I admire her in that sense, because I feel like she is very much in touch with her feelings. And I think that's amazing. I aspire to be like her in that sense. And she's fantastic. And she sees a counselor, and, she's down with it. And, I'm really proud of all of them. And grateful, very grateful that I still had some really, like, when they were still kind of little, but at the same time, I do have a lot of regrets about when they were really little and I was still drinking. But at the same time, there's also some really fun memories there too, because we had a lot of fun. Like, we did a lot of things. Like, we spent a lot of time, in the outdoors and stuff like that too. So I'm grateful for that. And
it all has a place.
It does, absolutely. And like I said, the journey is the way it's supposed to be, and I will never look back and be like, I wish those years didn't happen, because I don't wish that, but I do wish that I had. Now I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I have something to really offer the relationships in my life. Like, obviously my friends felt like I had something to offer before that, but there's just, I feel stronger now. I feel like it doesn't matter what's going on. Like, things are going to happen, right? Life's not, a breeze. Things are always going to be happening. Things are not easy now, but I feel so different about it. Like, my outlook is so different. I'm like, I'm not like, bring it on, I can take it, whatever. I just feel like I don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because whatever does happen, I'm going to be okay. And I really, really feel that. I feel it in my bones. I have a really good connection to my spiritual side, and I trust that part of my life. I put a lot of trust into my higher power, and I am okay with that. I'm good with it. And yeah, lots of days I still am like, how do I deal with this? What do I do? But I can stop. I can pause. I can pray on it. Prayer is huge for me.
Like, coming to be more authentic and realize what it is you truly need, kind of when you say like holding on to your heart and what it means, and like all the strides you've made to live that and be that and have those outside match the insides and like live in your truth. And it sounds like you've made, it's almost like these big milestones kind of years apart about like, this is Michelle, this is who I am, this is what I need. And then your ability to like give back, to your kids. And I kind of wondered, like, is there any like more like subtle things in your life where you find it harder to like say, this is what I want? Like, if someone's like, do you want to go out for dinner now? Would you be able to say,
oh, no.
No, I'm still struggling.
Okay, so I had someone I've known for a long time, actually, as an acquaintance, not a close friend or anything, but somebody I've known for a long time, kind of sent me a message and kind of put it out there that they wanted to, take me out, kind of thing. And I didn't want to, only in the sense, and I'm not going to make excuses, I just knew I didn't want to. That was not a direction I wanted to take a relationship with that person. And so this, big long message came in, and I was like, oh my God, and I was reading through it. And, I can appreciate the fact that this person is making themselves so vulnerable. Like, that's courage. I'm not sure I have the courage to do something like that, but here's this person putting it out there. And I was able to just, I wanted to acknowledge their vulnerability and their courage, but I also wanted to be assertive in the sense where I did not want the relationship to go any further other than friendship. And I felt very comfortable in saying that, because in the past, if I was forced to be honest, it felt like a confrontation, and it was like really, really stressful. And this conversation didn't feel that way. It was just like, no, you know what? This is how I feel. Thank you. No, I appreciate, you, but.
And you attribute that to your growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would have been a harder.
Oh, impossible.
Just like, okay, we'll
I
get
actually
a relationship.
thought about it. I thought about it. I was like, okay, well, how else could this go? Like, but in the past, you would have come up with some lame excuse, created, I can't because of this. And then I'm like, it's just like when you first get sober and you're like, I'm thinking about drinking, and they say, play the tape out, play it all the way out. Yeah. Well, let's play the tape out for Michelle's old reactions, right? And same thing. You're going to make a lame excuse and tie it to something that really doesn't have any bearing on it whatsoever. And then that thing will come to pass. And then you won't have that excuse anymore. And then what are you going to say? Because this person's not going to forget.
No, it's consuming way too much mental energy.
Right?
And you can't.
And I would have gone down that road before. I would have been like, skipping down that road. But no, now I'm like, no, I don't want to live my life like that. I want to be authentic. And also, I think that it's a respectful way to treat other people too. Like, I'm not going to be dishonest. I'm just going to be, I'm going to be assertive about how I feel.
What would you tell somebody today that's wanting to make a decision, but they feel stuck in, or like what they need doesn't matter, or they're stuck in the expectations of others? Or what would you tell that person that was...
It's a tough one. I've had some friends that have gone down that road, and I don't know if there's any magic words to it, but the one thing that I would hold on to is that when you are thinking about this stuff, if the scary thing that, like leaving, if that's the scary thing, for whatever reasons, because everybody's got tons, if you think about that, like I'm just thinking about that moment when I said, no, I'm going to do it. And it felt so right, and that's what really convinced me that, hey, this is right, If you think about something like that and you think about the scariest action you could take, but it feels right, you got to follow it. You just have to be brave. And if you are struggling with that, seek some counseling. Like, it did amazing things for me. Amazing things for me. We have these beliefs in our head, like the things that we tell ourselves. And that's truth, We think it is anyways. And that's what counseling did for me. It kind of made me realize that maybe some of those things that I was telling myself, or the beliefs I had, weren't really true.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Would you say if you had one thing that you would plan to work on in the future, or, I feel like it's always like, oh, you finally came to this, found its way, and now I'm kind of healing through this, and I'm aware of it, and I'm dealing with it, and then the next thing crops up. Like, do you have the next thing that's cropped up in your life that needs addressed, do you feel?
Not yet.
Not yet? That's good. Just
do you have any wood here I can knock on?
Bliss for now.
Yeah.
In your little apartment.
I mean, I do understand that this too shall pass. But yeah, so far so good. But I've also, like I said, I'm keeping it pretty simple right now. I'm like not looking to create any extra in my life right now. I just really have been focused on my healing too. Like, that's the other part of it too. Okay, yeah. So I saw this comedian and she's like, oh, I was dating this guy and he dumped me and it just hurt so much, and I just took all of that pain and I just shoved it in my bag and I packed it down. I just packed it all down in there, and then I took my bag and I put it over my shoulder and I carried it into the next relationship. And I thought, oh my God, yes, that's what we do. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because, I tried and tried making connections with people and stuff like that. But yeah, when it doesn't work out, all that pain just comes right back up to the surface again. And then I finally learned, yeah, this is because you're not healing it. You're not properly healing yourself, and until you do, it's always going to be there, and even though I walked away from that relationship and, had made that decision, it was a 20-year relationship. It still requires grieving. There's still healing to be done from that. It's not going to just happen overnight either. You got to take the time and you need to let it happen. I don't want to
unpack the bag.
Unpack the bag. That's right. And I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not looking to complicate my life right now anyways. Like, my life is is very simple, and in the sense where I have the ability to really focus on that, really focus on my healing. And yeah, and then I feel like, you know, I'll be able to bring more to the table. You know, I'll be able to bring more to a relationship other than, you know, my insecurities and my fears, which I think is what I have brought to my relationships in the past, you know, like most people do, you know. Yeah, so I'm not looking for that right now anyways. Not that I would even know how to find it. I mean, I haven't, was in a relationship for 20 years, and I met him in a bar, and every relationship previous to that, I met them in a bar. So I don't know how to get into a relationship right now, but I guess that'll probably sort itself out too. Yeah, and online dating is terrifying, so I'm going to stay away from that. I don't think that's good for anybody, but
Whoever you decide is just so lucky. You are a comedian. You are so much fun, and yeah, you haven't really expressed a whole bunch of that tonight because we're on a more serious tone podcast, but yeah, you're a pleasure to be around. And yeah, I imagine there's, you know, you spend your life in not the bar anymore, and just attract a whole different breed of person, right? And all the things that you do, and all the growth that you have had, and yeah, the place that you stand today, and just, yeah, it's like I really admire you in the fact that like you are making decisions, and it goes to show, like, to the listener, to me, to people, that like no matter where you are at, how much you have involved with someone, how long the relationship is, like that you can do something different if you feel that's what is right for you, right? And yeah, you've really shown that and expressed that, and yeah, I think it just takes a bunch of courage to.
It does, and honestly, I think, like you were talking about attracting people into your life, it's not just romantic relationships when you get to a certain place, but like I feel like leading up to my separation, women were coming into my life that had gone through this and had come out of it okay.
Yeah.
And it really, you know, kind of helped me build my resolve, you know, to get to that place. It helped me push through some of those fears, you know, and you know, when you asked me earlier about what I would say to somebody going through this, like that's something that you know, pay attention to that. Pay attention to the people that are put in your path, and yeah, listen to the universe, because we put it out there. We do, and we do attract what we need, you know, and you know, you just have to have your eyes open, and you have to be open to it. And yeah, you'll find your strength in all kinds of places before you find it in yourself. So
well,
yeah,
no, that's really a good piece of advice, and
thank you.
I think obviously advice that you've taken yourself many times when you talked about holding onto your heart, and you know, having to identify what you need and what you want and how to live authentically. You know, there's a lot of listening involved in that, and awareness, and yeah, it seems like you've had these like staple points in your life where you've had to make these decisions and kind of big bursts of healing and change, and yeah,
I do feel like that. It's been a journey, for sure.
When I think about you, I think of an authentic person. You radiate that to me, and someone that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot, actually. That's
authentic and
wonderful.
You're clear, like you know what's going on. You say what's true for you. You like, there doesn't feel like a lot of guessing about what's going on with Michelle. Like, if there's something that you're uncomfortable about, I feel like you say that, and if there's something you're really happy about, you really share that too. So really cool.
I try.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's a really good message that, you know, bravery and courage, and you know, everything we want sometimes is on the other side of fear, right? Doing that hard thing and moving through it is going to give us that relief, right? And it's not always leaving a relationship, and it's not about, it could be like you say, it doesn't matter what the fear is, right? It's just getting through it to the other side. And you can always make another choice. You can always go back, you know? Most of the time you can do something different if it doesn't feel right when you get where you thought you wanted to be. So
yeah, no kidding. And that's absolutely true. You can apply that to so many areas of your life, your career, right? Your friendships too.
Yeah.
Not all relationships serve us, right?
Nope.
So
I appreciate you coming on here so much and sharing a little snippet. And I realize that there's, you know, it's an hour and there's so much more to you. And just like we spoke about, like layers, right? But I really appreciate you coming on and just giving a little snippet about who you are and sharing vulnerably about yourself. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for asking me. I feel very honored.
Thanks, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm the producer of the Hold On to Your Heart Project podcast. If you'd like to find out more about the podcast or listen to previous episodes, you can find us at holdontoyourheartproject.com or on social media and audio streaming platforms and YouTube at Hold On to Your Heart Project. Thanks for listening.